Okay, everybody. I guess that it's sort of time. It's 1:30, so kindly if we get the speaker also. I'm the speaker. I'm Janne Kalliola, CEO and founder of Exove, and your host tonight. Let's put it this way. We will run these Drupal cafes every 2 months, so every even month except August. There's a Drupal cafe on the second Tuesday from 4 o'clock. The point of this cafe is that you and me and everybody else network and get to know the new people that use the same system that we all love. The session, of course, it gives a good ideas and so forth, but at the end, I'm sorry to say this, but it's an excuse to get people here that they can then discuss about the session too. So it is part of the experience, but it's crucial that you meet new people. And I will always say to target that there's always new people, some from Turku and Keuruu this time, so they are quite far away already. So meet people, make new friends, learn something new, then this time is not wasted. So that's my sort of call to you all, call to action, so to speak. A couple of household things. Toilets are that way. There is some drinks, and we'll provide more if needed. We will stream this whole stuff. This is actually going now to YouTube, so we'll live stream it, and then we'll later clip. I'll be clipped out. So there, I do hope to get just the beef of the presentation to YouTube as a video, so you can check it later. My only request is that near the camera there's a microphone, so don't make too much noise while we are speaking here, because it actually takes some noise also from, even if it's a directed microphone, it takes some noise down there, so don't gulp too loudly and so forth, or type with nobody has the IBM classic keyboard that has the really lousy, not lousy but loudy clickety click. So in that sense we are good. But if you code, then do code silently while next to the microphone. There is a Drupal sprint next Saturday at Siili premises. So Siili has been really active this month here speaking and then organizing sprint. So Siili is 700 meters that way in Ruoholahti area. Tommi here is the guy that will handle the sprint. So if you want to learn more about that, then please talk with him. It starts 11ish, I guess.
Yeah.
11 o'clock and then goes until people have steam. And the topic of the sprint is open. It's in the Drupal Skype channel. So if you don't have access to the Drupal Skype channel but would like to be there, what is really encouraged, then discuss with me or Tommi. We'll invite you to the channel and to join the fun. There will be, it's not very frequent discussion, so you don't need to despair that there will be too much stuff overwhelming you with Drupal stuff, but there are sometimes good discussions and so forth, so it's a good place to be. That's all that I got, so floor is yours.
Thanks.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm here to talk about how to build a scalable and durable website with AWS. Oh. Okay, I'll have to do this manually. So, quickly about me. My name is Mika Tuhkanen. I'm currently a tech lead at Siili Solutions, and I mainly focus on Drupal and all that's related to it, but I also work with AWS and other cloud environments like Azure and Aqua and so forth. And quickly about Siili. We have around 350 employees, and also our current website siili.com is made with Drupal 8. And then quickly about AWS, it's Amazon Web Service. It's about cloud computing, and it provides more than servers. It provides services that you can use. And typically, when you have a somewhat smaller project in Drupal, you just have a single server where you have your Drupal, Apache database, Memcache files, and cron running all on the same server, which is I guess it's okay for a small project. But what if you need to scale the site up? You have high traffic, you need high availability. So what if you could move some of this stuff outside of the actual server and use AWS services to replace those? For example, if you could move caching, cron, database, and files to AWS. Okay. So some of the key points about this way of building the server is that you actually have less hosting. You use the AWS services, and thus you get high availability for your environment instead of having just a single server. And plus, I'll quickly talk about having possibility to reuse the server environments, that you don't always have to recreate the whole environment from the scratch, or even using scripts or whatever you usually use. So we're going to talk about load balancing in AWS, how to get the database as a service, and then also with the files and caching, that's how we get those as a service. And since we're using multiple servers, we need to consider how we want to run our Drupal cron, and also how to deploy your code into a wide variety of server instances, that how to use AWS for that. So about load balancing, in AWS you can create these auto-scaling groups. Basically you define that what's the minimum amount of servers you want to have, and in this case the server is where you have the Drupal code and then the Apache and nothing more basically. So in AWS you can define that, okay, for example, I want to have a single web server running, but if there is more load, it would spawn more instances into these auto-scaling groups. And then there's the elastic load balancing, so you basically have this single point where all the traffic comes, and then in the AWS it automatically registers those new instances, web servers to these elastic load balancing, so it automatically distributes the traffic evenly to those servers. So you don't have to keep track of them manually. A good thing about this is that you don't need to have, let's say, 10 servers running all the time. If you think that's the peak traffic that you have, you could have like just a few servers, and when the traffic increases, the AWS will increase the amount of resources that you have. And also, you could actually in Amazon create multiple elastic load balancers using this service called was it Route 53, where you could actually have like multiple elastic load balancer environments in multiple regions. So if one of the regions goes down, it will automatically direct the traffic to a new load balancing environment. Okay.
How about Elastic Beanstalk? Is that good for hosting Drupal, for example?
Well, I don't have experience in that.
That's area.
Yeah. Okay. And then about the database. In AWS there is this service called RDS. So it's relational database service. Basically just you can create their database, for example MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL and so forth. And then you just connect it with the Drupal settings PHP. So the key thing in here is that you don't have your own database server. You use the AWS service to get it. Thus you don't need to take care of the actual server. So the uptime is most likely better. Plus with the RDS you can increase the performance of the database, but just by clicking it. You don't have to actually get a new server, move the database there. So that's the good thing about this. And plus it provides replications and database snapshots in the AWS. And then the files, since this environment will be distributed, you don't really want to have or you don't want to copy those files on all of the EC2 instances. You want to have a single place where you store, for example, images for the nodes. And then there is this S3 service in the AWS. Basically, it's just like data warehouse or data storage where you can upload files. And you can also put the compiled JS and CSS files there and use the S3 as a place for those also. The good thing about this is also that you don't have to host a server or take care of the disk space on that. Basically you can put almost unlimited amount of files in here. And then there is the Drupal config module called S3FS, which basically allows that it overrides the public folder in Drupal, so you can actually use it. But be aware that there are still some cases that, for example, some modules want to use the local disk for storing stuff, so you might in some cases need to check those and write a patch for that. Okay, and then there's the caching. To keep the cache data that it's the same for all of the Drupal sites, Drupal servers, then you need to have like a centralized way to handle the caching. So in the AWS also you can use this Elastic Cache service. Basically you just define how many cache nodes you want, and then in the Drupal settings PHP you basically just define for each for example memcache bucket that okay, this bucket goes to this memcache node, and if you want to have some kind of automation, for example, you want to spawn more nodes, memcache nodes, the AWS has SDK for that, or you can manually do it. But the key thing is in here is that the AWS takes care of the hosting of the nodes. So if it dies, it automatically spawns a similar one back up again with the same IP port. So that's also one thing that you move from your regular hosting duty and let the AWS take care of it. Okay. And then there is the cron. You don't want to have the cron running on each of the Drupal instances. So basically you need a separate EC2 instance for running the cron. This is because you don't, for example, you have five web servers and all of them are using the same code base and same server settings. So the cron would actually be triggered all at the same time. So thus you want to have a separate cron server for this. And also the good thing for this is that if you want to have like a single point where the administrators can access the backend, so you can also use that server to allow admins only access from that server to the backend. So to summarize that a bit, you have the elastic load balancer that distributes the traffic to the EC2 instances, and the EC2 instances are running the Apache and the Drupal code and nothing else. And then you have the RDS running the MySQL as a service. And then you have the S3 for the files. And then the Elasticache for the memcache nodes. And then the separate cron server also using the same services. So the data is also updated in those places so that the actual Drupal sites get the same data. So then about the code deployment. Back in the old days, you would know that how many servers you would have, plus the IPs of those servers. But since we are using the auto-scaling group, there are unknown amount of servers, and you don't know the IPs of those. Of course, you could, with the AWS SDK and API, discover those, but that's not like the easiest way, and then you would have to write your own code. So then there is so you have your code, and then, okay, let's go a bit back actually. So there is in AWS there is this service where you can actually deploy your code to the auto-scaling group. So in here you have your code, and then you need to move or create these code deployment packages which are transferred to S3, and from there they are moved to the code deploy service that actually deploys the code to the EC2 instances. But there is also direct support for GitHub, so you can get the code directly to code deploy from GitHub, and then deploy that to your EC2 instances. Okay. So this way you don't have to keep track of the EC2 instances because you don't know how many of them are around at this point. And then a bit about the environment setup. There is this service, well not service, but this functionality in AWS where you can create this config file from existing resources, or you can write your the config file from scratch using JSON format. That basically brings up the whole environment up. So you could actually have this whole thing up and running in no time if you just create the config file. So it would be really easy for it if you start a new project and you know that there are these requirements that it's high availability and load balanced. So then you would use this AWS CloudFormation to bring the whole environment up. Okay, so you like the idea, but you don't want to use the services. You want to write your own stuff. So the AWS has quite wide support for doing this stuff yourself, using the SDKs and APIs. Basically, all of this stuff you can do yourself, writing your custom code. There was, I think, at least for PHP and Java and was it some .NET or some C language that are supported. So if you want to have, let's say, the mem caching thing you're done yourself, you can use those tools and create the scripts for yourself. Okay, the usual argument about having a single server versus the distributed and load balanced environment is the cost. So there is this AWS calculator. If you Google it, you can calculate actually how much will it cost to have this kind of environment. I would say that still, if you use the services and, for example, the elastic load balancing, you will save money compared to having the maximum amount of servers running all the time, because this is what it's mainly about, to minimize the cost and to have the server resources available when you need them, not before. I remember this old project that we had. The server costs were like a 6-digit number, and we had to have like the whole server farm available all the time. So if we would have had this, then it would have saved a lot of money. So if you're still here, but actually not if you're not interested in the server side, you could use the Acquia and Pantheon that basically uses AWS, or at least the Acquia uses AWS to do the same thing. But the thing is that they are relatively expensive, and for me to figure out the environment, this didn't take that much. So you basically do this once and use then the CloudFormation to bring it up again and for each project. So in the long run, I would say that it saves you quite a lot of money. Okay, and then back again. So in Siili we have used AWS for this. Well, quite a lot of projects, and well, larger ones are these Posti, Elisa, Kone, Wärtsilä, and Caverion. And also the example case that I'm talking in here is an actual customer that wanted a website with a web store that needs to be up and running no matter what. So, okay, thank you. That's all that I have. Do you have questions?
What are the downsides, apart from money?
Well, of course, it's a bit of it takes a bit of looking into to figure out how to actually configure the correct settings in the AWS. But I would say that once you have that, there are, at least I don't see that there are that many downsides, because you get the scalability and move the stuff to AWS. Of course, since in some cases you're using the service, you don't get maybe that deep knowledge what might actually be happening on the actual server, because it's masked behind the AWS.
Good.
About bringing up those additional instances, how fast is it? If your load suddenly goes up, someone mentions your site in a live stream or something, how quickly does it bring up those instances?
I haven't benchmarked it, but it's basically the same as if you used AWS AMI to bring up the server. I would say that it's maybe a minute or two, because well, of course, if you do it so that every time you spawn a new server, that it would run some like Ansible or something else to set up the server, then I would say that it takes a bit longer. But you can skip that by first creating the initial layout for the server and then creating an AWS image for that. And then when the new server is needed, it uses that image as a base for that server. So it doesn't take that long. Okay.
Can you pre-configure a number of servers to start automatically? You know, if you know that you have a peak coming up, like you're releasing something or something like that, can you put it like, okay, give me 10 servers for that date?
Yeah, actually you can configure it using, well, do you mean that you would like to have 10 servers for a few days? Is that so?
For instance, yeah. Like, you know, you have a product launch, you know that it's gonna draw a lot of traffic to your site. You want to make sure that it's up and running straight away.
I don't think you can in the AWS console define that, okay, have 10 servers for these between this date interval. But you can have, well, let's say that you would have like a high traffic, you could have say that, okay, I want to have as a base 10 servers and then 20, maximum 20 of servers.
Okay.
But with the SDK and APIs, you could create your own script that, okay, during this, like, let's say like a weekend, I want to have 10 servers, and after that drop it down back to like 5. That's possible.
Okay.
But usually I would say that in the case is that if the CPU load rises, then spawn more, or if the EC2 instances crash, so it will automatically spawn more instances in that case also.
Mm-hmm.
So, basic configuration is that you define what's the minimum amount of servers I want to have, and then the maximum amount.
Okay.
And it changes the amount of instances depending on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you feel that spot instances are useful for this kind of environment with Drupal?
What do you mean by spot instances?
In AWS EC2 you can have on-demand instances or spot instances. spot instances are a bit differently priced. They are usually at least half of the price of the normal on-demand instances. But spot instances are not guaranteed to be up all the time. So sometimes you may lose a spot instance without any notice.
Well, I haven't actually looked into that, but you could use that and let the auto-scaling group take care of that.
Yeah.
That it would spawn if for example, if it would die for unknown reason, it would spawn yet another. But I kind of don't see the point, because with the auto-scaling group you want to have a certain amount of servers, and then if the peak rises it will create new servers, and when the peak goes down it will automatically shut down those servers.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, in my opinion, there is no need to have.
But you can reduce your instance cost by 70% if you use spot instances. So that's quite a lot of.
But then you also have to pay for it if you take the service. Since you have to commit to that certain amount of servers for that spot with AWS.
You can use auto-scaling groups with spot instances as well, and it's hourly billed.
Yeah, but you still have the base that you have to pay. But without those, you can actually downgrade more.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that there's kind of base you need to set for.
But that's actually a good point. Okay.
Is this for Drupal 7 or Drupal 8 or both?
Well, only thing it is for the S3FS module. That is, if I remember correctly, it was only for the 7 at the moment. But, well, yeah, that's I would say the only issue, because everything else is, well, for example, the load balancing is not Drupal related, and then you can the memcache you can configure using multiple memcache nodes. So yeah, it's basically possible, but I haven't actually looked into the D8 file handling that much. That how much trouble would it be to set up the same thing for D8? Okay.
How much freedom do you have for where the data is stored? Can you choose that it'll stay in Finland or in Europe?
There in AWS there are multiple regions. You cannot define that it's actually in Finland, but in EU there are at least 2 regions. Was it Ireland and somewhere else? But you cannot really define a country other than the Ireland and something else.
I think it was Frankfurt.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I don't remember.
Opening.
Yeah. But yeah, at least, well, and plus, since we're talking about the countries and regions, you can, with the auto-scaling groups, you could have divide or create multiple groups that are spread throughout the regions. So if one region goes down, for example, if there are like a major network issue in that area, the site would still be up because it would automatically start using the different regions auto-scaling group. And as I mentioned, if you're using the Route 53 service, you can have the whole elastic load balancers moved into different regions if you want that. Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
Have you any experience doing similar things on like the Amazon, Google or Microsoft's cloud networks?
No, not actually. I have some experience with Microsoft Azure, but not really building like a scalable environments using those hosting services. Okay. Okay, thanks.